What's up? It's Pierce here, and we're not finna fish today. So, I didn't get out fishing this week, so I figured I'd bring you a video from home, cover a topic I've wanted to talk about for a long time, and that is my favorite budget spinning reel. Back when I used to work at Bass Pro, there was a handful of people that would come in looking to get into saltwater fishing. And these customers coming in, they didn't want to spend a lot of money on a reel. They were just getting into the sport. They didn't want to drop a whole bunch of money on a nice saltwater reel or anything. And there was really one obvious choice, and that was the Shimano IX. It's a no-bearing reel, and it's basically the only cheap option I'd recommend for saltwater because it was so simple that there just was nothing to rust out. With no bearings and a graphite body, this reel can just take a little bit of saltwater abuse. But the Shimano IX, it's not a very refined reel. It's not the type of reel you'd want to put a fresh light spool of braid on, so I would only usually reserve recommending it to people who are just getting into saltwater fishing. There was a new reel released around 2020 that picked up the slack the Shimano left off with great line lay, but in all honesty, the release of this reel marked the date that the refinement necessary to do high-level finesse fishing met up with entry-level price point, all while being able to withstand a little bit of saltwater use, and that reel is the Daiwa Crossfire LT. See, when I first started looking at the Crossfire, it beckoned back to the Shimano. The Shimano being zero bearing, this is a one bearing reel, and the bearing is on the inside of the body, so it's hard to get to. It being so simple, it's hard to rust something like that out very quickly. But what sets this reel apart from the Shimano is the refinement of the LT concept being available in such a low price point, which we'll get into further what that means and what the implications of that are in fishing. Most reels around this price point will have two drive gear bearings on either side of the handle and the dust cap. This reel has plastic drive gear bushings, and that is one of the easiest points for saltwater to enter, and being plastic bearings, there's nothing to rust there. So at this price point, it can withstand more saltwater abuse than any other reel so far, just from that alone. If you've never had a Daiwa LT reel, I highly recommend it. Daiwas are super smooth. Them and Shimano are really the smoothest reels in the game. I don't want to get too into the Daiwa marketing terminology because then I'll just sound like a Daiwa rep. I'm by no means affiliated with this company. I just love the reel. Many anglers, when they spool this reel up, they might actually think that it's spooling towards the top, and that's just a feature of Daiwa spools on their LT reels, and it makes the line fly off of the spool easier, getting you more distance. And when compared to a reel like my Pen, it has a much wider and taller spool, allowing for less rotations of line, less friction, and again, more distance. Now the drag on these reels is extremely smooth. It's a single felt washer, which is really typical in finesse reels, especially over in Japan. It might sound rudimentary. Again, this reel is rudimentary, it's 30 bucks, but that drag is extremely smooth, allowing you to keep those fish pinned and not pull any hooks. And it has a rather shallow spool for a North American reel, which in turn gives more room inside of the spool for more drag washer surface area, which translates into smoother drag. Another cool thing about the spool size, it has a lot more inches per turn than most reels of its size. So like my Pen here, they're very similar size reels. They weigh the same, both 7.8 ounces, and they're very, very similar size reels. I mean, the Daiwa's just a hair bigger, but the spool itself is a chunk bigger, and that allows you to take up more line when you're reeling in, which is a huge advantage for me while I'm jigging. I do a lot of jigging, and I'm always ripping it off bottom and picking up that slack, and the quicker you can pick up that slack and maintain contact with the bait, the more bites you will be able to detect. So I really love being able to pick up as much line as possible, and that's actually why I fish the LT 2000. The LT 2000 and the 1000 actually share the exact same body. The only difference is the spool, and it goes from about 25.5 inches per turn to 26.5 or so inches per turn. So you gain another inch per turn over that bigger spool. And when compared to my Pen's 22 inches per turn, very measly. Now, unfortunately, I need to respool like all of my ultralights, but if you could see here, this Daiwa has a very subtle lip coming off of that spool, and that Pen has a very starch lip, and that is just not good for casting. It's just going to fight against your line the whole time. So with that Daiwa LT concept, the way it wraps your line up towards the top and has that very smooth lip, it just flies off of there, especially when you pair it with some 8-strand J braid, which is basically the only braid I use. 6-pound 8-strand J braid is the stuff. It is an amazing combination with the Daiwa LT reel. This is a metal body reel, this is a graphite body reel, but they weigh about the same. And to me, we're finesse fishing anyways. I'm not going to put enough pressure on this reel to flex it. And actually, I've talked to some charter captains who say that these reels flex less than the Daiwa Fuego at 100 bucks. So these are really nice reels. I know charter captains who use 1000s and 2000s inshore, catching big inshore game. And I use these things inshore all the time. Now, it's not all peaches and cream. After all, it's a $30 reel, and if you fish the heck out of it, something will go wrong. The first thing to break for all of us has been the bail spring, and it's a very simple fix. You call Daiwa, they'll usually send you an upgraded bail spring that's a little stronger, a little pack of them for free. They'll send you about 3 of those. You remove these 2 screws here, pull out the broken spring, push in the new one, screw it back in, and you're good to go. It's a very simple fix. I did break my first one. Here's its coffin right here. Keys and pieces. As you guys know, I do a lot of kayak fishing. These are not a sealed reel by any means. There's not a seal even under the drag. There's not a seal anywhere in this reel. The way my kayak situation is set up, I drip a lot of water down on my reels when I'm paddling because I lift that paddle up and it just drips all over my reels on the back. I can't really avoid it. And so that salt water will seep in underneath that drag cap and it'll tear things up. Stay tuned to the end. I'll show you a secret on how to make your reel much more waterproof than it comes stock. After I kayak fished for months with this thing, I was fishing a creek here in Central Florida and I got a jungle jig stuck in my finger, link in bio, and I dropped my combo in the water and this thing soaked at the bottom of the creek. So I think between the kayak fishing and soaking in the creek for about 10 minutes, it was just kaput. I'm sorry, not this thing, it was this thing. And then when I didn't clean it out properly when I got home, it was just seized up. But again, I don't blame the reel for that. If you soak any $30 reel for 10 minutes after kayak fishing with it for mud and salt water, it's probably dead. But I got a bunch of parts now, so that's all good. I actually bought this one online for 10 bucks on Facebook with a broken bail spring and used my old bail spring and replaced that. So there's a $10 reel right there that lays line like a dream. And again, once your reel does break, it's 30 bucks. Run out and get a new one, which I don't like being wasteful and suggesting that, but once you have 1 or 2 of these things and you can replace parts, it's going to last you years. Actually, you'd be surprised. I convinced a number of my buddies on Instagram to get one of these, and now we've gone as far as making an Instagram page, so if you want to follow it, it's just for fun. We talk about this reel, things like I've gone over in this video. We post about it, we post our catches. You can even get your own crossfire and send in some pictures to that Instagram and we'll post it. But we all love the reel. Some of my buddies, they surf fish with them, pier fish. We've clunked and dunked it. I mean, you name it. And these things can take a beating. I wasn't so lucky for mine breaking, but I've had my buddies tell me they dunk it left and right and have no problems. Now I'm going to show you guys how I saltwater proof this thing and how I upgrade it a little bit. So let's switch gears here and I'll show you that. I'm going to start with greasing the reel. Before you do anything to your reel, just a disclaimer, guys. It can make your reel feel a little tighter on the retrieve, but it shouldn't affect things too much. And it's just a small sacrifice for having a reel that'll last longer in salt water. So the first thing I do with these reels is, if you notice, you take the spool off, they actually have little ports in here. So what I'm going to do is just take a little chunk of grease and just shove it in there to kind of seal that off. So here I got some reel grease. This is Penn stuff here. I don't know if the brand really matters. I'm just going to put enough to seal that off there. I'm going to do it on all 3 of them. There's 3 open ones. Those little tiny holes are now covered with grease. I went a little overboard on that one there. Check that out. All I did was grease around the main shaft where it meets that nut, and then I shoved a bit in the little open ports that it has here. And what I do is I take the handle off, take some of that grease, and I'm just going to grease the outside perimeter there of where that handle cap sits, that dust cap. So right here. Bring it around. Again, I'm just creating little grease seals, right? This one, same thing. Just grease out the outside edge. Right here. That's done. And as I said, it can tighten up the reel. I've never noticed a difference. I've just heard people tell me that. I never really noticed a difference. Still just as smooth to me. The main upgrade here. Alright. If you have a nicer LT model reel, namely the Legalis, the Fuego, and anything in that price point or nicer, you pull open this drag here. Take a look at the difference between, this is the Crossfire drag cap, drag knob, and this is my Johnny Morris Carbon Light drag knob. Again, it's a Daiwa. So if you notice, this thing has a gasket and this one doesn't. I'm going to show you a trick. It's really awesome. So if you have one of these nicer reels, this is actually one of the cheaper ones that has it. The Legalis, the Fuego, Johnny Morris Carbon Light. There might be a couple more out there that have it, but grab that gasket, Actually comes off pretty easily. You can throw that thing right on the crossfire. But, alright, so now what you have is a drag seal. That gasket, when you're fishing, will prevent any water from getting underneath your drag knob and into your drag, which can mess up your reel while you're fishing. It can mess up your drag, and it can allow water to get down your main shaft into your reel. So just as an extra little layer, I'm going to add some grease here around the outside edge. That spool there. I'm a little heavy-handed, so you guys can do less if you want. Take that drag gasket and grease that up too. Just a little bit, just so the layer get wet. Slap her on. There's your crossfire ready for saltwater. Field drag, greased up. And a little fun fact about daiwa LT reels, you can switch around all the stuff. So I could put this Laguna spool on this reel, or the handle on here, the drag knob. I can switch all this stuff around and it'll all fit together. If you like this video, watch the upload before this. I was fishing with this inshore for snook on my 2000 and it was killing it. I even caught a tarpon on my 1000. So go check that video out and see how this reel performs. I was catching tarpon, snook, all kinds of stuff on it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you like this, let me know in the comments if you want more videos like this. I love tackle, so I can talk about it all day. Next time we have a tackle talk, I'm going to talk to you guys about how I make an ultralight saltwater combo for my saltwater jigging. And yeah, if you have any suggestions, put them down below. And make sure if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe please, and yeah. Hopefully we're fishing next time. Take it easy, guys. Thank you so much for watching.